Hi, welcome to this episode. I promised to speak in the last episode about why government policies fail, and I'm going to be doing that in this episode. In the last episode, I had spoken about the qualities that you find in an effective government, and I listed 3 things that are very essential. And thank you for your comments. I saw the comments you put there, other things to watch out for in governments that really do very well, right? And the purpose of this is for, our governments to also see and hear from us and also understand how we are saying things. So this is not even a we versus them fighting them situation. This is, we are proposing in this semi-solve, in these episodes, just practical solutions to complex governance issues. So this is about solutions, and this is about, presenting those solutions and putting them forward. Now, there are 3 qualities of policies that are good. 3 qualities. And of course, there always can be more, right? But I'll mention these 3 basic things, right? And I'm going to be referencing the work that was done by the Harvard Kennedy School of Government, right? So this is research backed. This is, proven with evidence, and this is backed by, rigorous academic and empirical evidence. Number 1, a good policy has to be technically correct. Technical correctness is very essential for a policy to be good. Now you're thinking, what is technical correctness? Technical correctness in very simple terms is that the solution that is being put forward is the actual solution that solves the problem. It is technically correct. It is backed up by research. It is backed up by a citizen-centered approach. It is backed up by data. It is backed up by field assessment. And it has been seen, it's captured all angles, right? And it is seen to be the solution to this particular problem. Any policy that is rolled out that is not technically correct, that is not taking into account the lived realities of people, that does not have a citizen-centered approach, that is not backed by evidence or data, that is just a group of people sitting down in some fancy office with or without AC and coming up with ideas, that is not going to be a technically correct solution, because chances are very high that people's blind spots have come in, people's biases have come in, experiences that are not people's reality has come in, and so people are not really capturing, the people that are making decisions are not capturing what they should be capturing. I will give a very good example. Nigeria has one of the highest numbers of out-of-school children in the entire world. The last time I checked, I think, a few days ago, maybe just yesterday, about 15 million children are out of school. Now, if a government policy comes out and says that, what we need to do to solve this problem, if the solution is to put more chairs and desks in classrooms or to create new libraries across all classrooms in all public primary schools and even secondary schools as a way to encourage them to come to school, no! How have you come to that conclusion? What assessment have you done? Have you looked into the group of children that don't go to school? What are their realities? Why are they not in school? Is there a cultural impediment? Is there a family impediment? Are these children literal breadwinners, or are they, people that go and look for money and also for money on the farm for their family so that they will not die and they can survive? What is actually stopping them from going to school? Okay, what is the distance between their homes and the school? How far is it? Is it humanly possible to actually ply that distance from Monday till Friday, morning and after school? Right? So a lot of things need to be put into consideration. Who are the stakeholders? Let's talk about the parents. So what do the parents even believe about children going to school? Is there a gender factor to it as well? So do we have more girls that are out of school compared to boys? What then is fueling that? A thorough analysis needs to be done. Field assessment needs to be done. It needs to be backed up by research. It needs to be backed up by evidence. It needs to be backed up by data. It is only after this has been done that a strategy can really be put in place, that you can say this strategy has considered all the causes and will deal with that root cause and give us the solution that we want. So it cannot just be some fancy one-sided solution. Let us just buy desks and chairs, or let us create more libraries, or let us start giving them food. Why those could be part of the solutions? Because of course, if they come to school, they have to be able to sit down somewhere. Of course, libraries need to be well stocked. Why those could be part of the solution? They just applying that as the only solution will not solve the problem. It's got to be a combination of solutions. Sometimes the solution to one problem is a series of solutions. So it's a series of 1, 2, 3, 4 to solve one problem. One solution interacting with another solution, and then there's a comprehensive strategy that solves the problem. So number 1, it has to be technically correct. Number 2, it must be organizationally implementable. Meaning that there's got to be the capacity to be able to carry out that solution. You to think about it. If you come up with a solution that you are unable just by vastly deploying all the resources that you have, you just cannot, successfully deploy that solution. Could it be because of constraint of resources, constraint of time, constraint of manpower, any form of constraint? If it is not organizationally implementable, it will fail. So your policy also has to be such that can be implemented organizationally on a national scale. It's got to be a policy that makes sense and can be implemented on that scale. I'll give an example of a very bad policy, and that was the change of notes that we had. What year was that? Was it 2023 or 2022? That was such a bad policy. And it was a bad policy because we were given, was it less than 6 months to actually just stop using old notes and start using new notes? How on earth is that possible across a country of over 220 million people? How would that be possible? Literally, that policy created hardship for Nigerians, because it then got to a point where banks did not essentially even have new notes, and they were not even collecting, or there was just a lot of mess up. And then people that had money could not even spend their money. And it was so difficult. It was so hard. And people were spending premium on POS machines that were charging exorbitantly. You go to bank, they say the maximum they can give each person that's come to withdraw is maybe 10,000 naira. That was incredibly difficult. That was a bad policy. If the government decides there's got to be first technical correctness, what are we even trying to achieve with this currency change? And is this really the solution? After doing a thorough analysis, if they did their thorough analysis, they did research, they considered the living experiences of people, they considered the time that they had, they wouldn't have done it. But because thorough analysis was not done, it was not technically correct, it was not driven by research, it was not driven by thorough assessment, it was just some people making decisions, hardship was created. When a country creates hardship for its citizens, that's another level of suffering. That's another level of, why am I then a citizen of this country when this country is the one manufacturing hardship for me? If you understand what I'm trying to say. It was difficult for Nigerians. Why would you come up with that kind of policy within such a very short time? Organizational implementability. Can this, if we want to roll this out, do we have sufficient time? And again, I have to give some kudos to the tax reform team, right? Even after everything has been passed into bill and all of that, there was still some time given to Nigerians to digest what it means, given to companies to digest what it means, given to people to understand what it means, right? Sufficient time before the implementation. Now, that doesn't mean when implementation comes, there won't be 1 or 2 hiccups here and there, but you've given people time to take it in. There's been a lot of, instructional materials, information released to the public to help them to understand what this means. It has to be organizationally implementable. The technology, the capacity, the manpower, the resources, everything that needs to be in place for this policy to be a reality, we are able to make it happen. We have the capacity to make it happen. Very important. Implementability. Number 3 is political supportability. We're talking about public policy here, right? And for it to be passed, there's got to be support for it. You've got to be able to generate sufficient support for it. And a very good example of a policy that, though it's not been passed yet, but it's still, I think, in the bill stage, right, is the reserved seat bills for women, right? You can see generating a lot of political support. You can see the Speaker of the House of Representatives. You can see, the Senate President. You can see some, political figures, supporting that there's got to be more women in politics. And that is so important. How do we have a country where almost half of its population is female and you have just less than 1% representation amongst lawmakers? That is just not balanced. And there's so many reasons. We're going to do a video about that, why women do not participate in politics and how to get them in. It's going to be a series we're going to talk about, right, extensively, but just not to digress from the main thing we're talking about. We can see political support, right? And we are hoping that bill gets passed, because one of the things you have to do if you leave it to default and this is the result you are getting, then you need to do things to make it happen, right? I know that there's been different schools of thought saying that, okay, are you giving women advantage over men, and all of that. We will talk about all of those in, how to get women to participate in politics and, it's going to be an amazing time, right? So political supportability is important for policies that will be passed. Now, I've talked about these 3 things. I know you can think of more things that need to be in place for a policy to succeed, but just, in conclusion, you would see that if a policy is not technically correct, if there is no capacity to implement it, and if it is not politically supportable, that policy will not succeed, right? And this is what policymakers, and a policymaker essentially is not only people that sit down within the legislature to pass bills. Policymakers are people that are in positions of decision making within government, as far as I am concerned. Anybody who makes decision within government, they need to have these essential skills. They need to be able to carry out these essential things. And what I want you to do, very importantly, is if you've watched this video to this point, put in the comments, what are the other things that need to be considered, right, for a policy to succeed? What are the things you think are important, cogent? And I look forward to reading for you. Thank you so much. Put it in the comments. What are the things that are needed for a policy to not fail? What are the things that you think that this thing was not in place and so Ajaokuta Steel Mills was an absolute failure? Put it in the comments. I look forward to hearing from you. Thank you very much.